Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2026. Today I am going to be speaking on behalf of Texas Movement International as a whole through the medium of Texas Movement Media. My name is Alexander Mathai. I am a native of the Midwest. I was born in Minnesota and moved to the Chicagoland area when I was 10 years old, and then moved back to the Minneapolis area around the age of 13, and then finally moved back to the Chicagoland area just outside of Elgin at the age of 17, 1 year before college. I attended Illinois Institute of Technology and got my degree in civil engineering there. Immediately afterwards, I went down to Fort Worth, Texas, and worked at a small consulting firm there, at which time I obtained my engineering training license by sitting for the Fundamentals of Engineering exam in 2012. So I'm a licensed engineer in training. Once my term at that consulting firm was completed, I moved on to the teaching space, where I was a long-term sub for Fellowship Christian Academy, affiliated with Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, where I was a member briefly. And then afterwards, I moved into the personal training and consulting space with Sweat Wellness. And then in 2015, after a successful term with Sweat Wellness and Nutrition, I started Texas Movement as an independent consulting firm in Highland Park, Texas, in the Dallas uptown area, catering towards the executive and professional athlete clientele. Since that time, what we've tried to do with Texas Movement is expand it to kind of a multi-vertical organization that has good cultural weight as well as good practical application for various problems that several diasporas go through simultaneously. So today, as we update 2026 quarter one, what I want to tell you is kind of what I've been working on personally and what I'd like the direction of the company to be this upcoming year. And I want to also outline some of the resistance we've encountered as a result of the direction that we've chosen. So both my phones are on silent at the moment, and I've got a few resources up on the screen. Today I want to talk about a couple of events in American history pertaining to Black financial autonomy, African American financial autonomy, financial independence, specifically as it pertains to what was commonly referred to as Black Wall Street. Okay, Black Wall Street was one of several communities in the African American culture that post-Civil War, during the Reconstruction era, the African American community realized that true integration would not be possible because of the Jewish affinity for slave ownership and the Caucasian, WASP, Anglo-Saxon Protestant willingness to go along with that and be complicit with that. The African American community historically has always recognized that they needed to operate independently in their own culture with their own financial autonomy. So in support of that, I would like Texas Movement to continue that tradition, which is why, as you can see here, I have a letter from One United Bank, which is a digital bank that is Black owned. It is nationally run. There are a few locations that allow you to do business accounts. Unfortunately, Chicagoland is not one of those areas. I hope we can change that in the near future. But in the meantime, I have shown support for Black Wall Street and the the Greenwood neighborhood by obtaining a personal checking account there, and I encourage you all to do the same. There's a very minimum balance requirement to start a personal account there. $50 is more than enough to get it done. And then if you're in the Boston or Miami or I believe Los Angeles or maybe some other areas, there's an opportunity to start a business account there digitally as well, although you may have to visit a branch in person in order to get that done. Okay? I'm also establishing relationships with GN Bank here in Chicago, which is the last Black-owned bank in Chicagoland and is encountering its own resistance. So I'd like the leadership of GN Bank to know that Texas Movement stands with you completely, and we will do anything in our power to tailor our image to whatever suits your needs the best, so that we can enjoy a long partnership together. Okay, so those are two, kind of modest things that I'm trying to do with the limited resources I have. Today, I really want to talk about Greenwood, Rosewood, and Detroit. 1921, 1923, and 1943. The reason these three examples are very important is because anytime a African American community has decided to be financially independent, usually there have been some malicious actions to either dominate or kind of subjugate through different type of compliance and all types of paperwork, and in any other kind of way thwart the financial independence of the African American community. This goes back to America's original sin of chattel slavery. There was never a time in American history where the African American community has been seen as truly independent citizens. As far as possible, the Jewish community has, and I say Jewish community specifically, because if you ask any white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, they would, as soon as they could do that, they would wish to be free of that disgusting history of slavery, which is still happening to this day in the financial sense. And if you don't believe me, look at every single inner city in this United States of America and who populates the poorest sections of those inner cities. Okay? Now, Chicago is a very stark example of it. And so when you hear what Fox News says about the south side, the west side of Chicago, and the resources being allocated to those areas, and how people are just kind of shoved into impoverished areas and expected to make ends meet with absolutely nothing. Even if I was not going through that in my business, I would be against it. And I hope, mulattoes, that from 2006 until 2026, I've given you enough of a charcuterie board of data to show that I am in fact against this system of oppression. Okay? I'm not going to be tap dancing anymore for anybody else. Okay? Even though I'm wearing Invictus today, which is representative of the South African Nelson Mandela struggle, I do not personally endorse that approach when oppression meets our doorstep. We must meet force with force, and that is what Texas Movement Media intends to do. So, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network, I want you to know that Texas Movement Media stands firmly alongside you, not in front of you or behind you, and we want to co-opt your mission so that we can amplify it to a greater degree. One of the things I'd like Texas Movement Media to be able to accomplish over the next year is establish a program for young streamers and creators to be independently viable. And we are working on our distribution platform to make sure your analytics are reported accurately, you're not shadow banned, and that you get the advertising revenue or whatever brand revenue that your platform deserves according to your level of work. Okay? So, while we cannot, it's very clear that we cannot fully rely on the federal government for grants or things like that. If you get those, good for you, great. But we cannot rely upon those things when our own independent sweat equity can get the job done itself. I have been a faithful number two to several black entrepreneurs, whether in my own personal work life or in my social life. And my time in the Dallas, Texas area, in the social scene, coordinating with the DJs, coordinating with the promotional groups, coordinating with the security guards, coordinating with all the entrepreneurs of various levels and various styles. I hope that I have done a sufficient job of showing you that I am up to the task. Okay? I would like Texas Movement to be considered a conglomerate in that same category. I have no desire to have any clientele that is unsupportive of this mission. Period. Point blank. End of story. I have no desire for public office. I have no desire for any kind of public vocal representation. I absolutely do not want to get in front of a pulpit, ever in my life. The only reason I got in front of one was because my mother was murdered in the same fashion as Martin Luther King at the hospital. Okay? So enough is enough, and every single action that Texas Movement International makes from this point forward is in war mode until we get our job accomplished. Period. Texas Movement Performance, we are getting ready to be a purely digital. So that anything that you see from Texas Movement Performance is now going to be just kind of embodied in my own personal training. When I say personal training, I mean my personal progress. And I'm going to use the track and field and Olympic weightlifting disciplines to continue to represent that progress. We have our Olympus series, our track spike series, as well as the Aquinas, which is our competition spikes series. And so when the time comes when we are at the appropriate sub 6'7", 6'6", in the 60, and sub 10'2", 10'1", if we're around that A or B standard, we will start doing competitions as it becomes appropriate. But first and foremost is the integrity of Texas Movement International. And the reason that this is taking on a more aggressive tone is that this is a purposeful mission. Okay, my own physical development is a secondary concern. Okay, it's a consolation prize. So what I'm trying to do is empower my young boys in my diaspora to show that there is no glass ceiling on what God has put on your life as far as purpose is concerned. Now, if your lust is for your own clout, for your own Godhead, for your own worship, the Lord is not going to allow you to be successful. But if you stay submitted to the proper authority structure, which we've all known deep in our conscience what it is, you are not the creator of the universe. Yes, you were made in the image of God, but that does not make you God. All right? The only reason I have been forthcoming or vocal or graphic in any of my displays was I wanted to show that fear does not run my life. Fear of race, fear of women, fear of white culture, fear of Jewish oppression, none of it controls my life. Nor did it control my mother's, and believe it or not, nor did it control my father's and brothers. They merely died because of fatigue. And that fatigue will be recompensed to Texas Movement International. Speaking of recompense, we have a reparations platform skeleton. We cannot have the same cultural context as the survivors of Tulsa and Rosewood and Detroit and so on and so forth. But I respectfully request those of you influencers that would like to be a part of that mission, you are more than welcome to partner with us. We will sell it to you. Okay? We have a distribution platform in the same skeleton as Suge Knight, Irv Gotti, and Jay Prince. We know that the music industry is changing. Whatever the distribution platform can do for you, we will continue to build it out. More importantly, we have an app that we would like to introduce to every city with a black mayor. No city takes priority. Okay, FounderLink is live and it's ready to go. It is a entrepreneur connection apparatus that can be easily embedded into municipality platforms so that small business owners, particularly small business owners of color, if necessary, exclusively from the African American community, can network and have preferred vendor lists across the nation. Okay? That's a problem that we can solve today itself. So don't say Texas Movement hasn't been trying to pull our weight. And the resistance that we're facing from the federal government, from local agencies, from even current living situations, and even from our own diaspora, because of extortion and blackmail occurring on all sides, mostly from Jewish interests, because of the lack of market share that Jewish banking interests would have on the African American community. There is no 13th Amendment bullshit happening here. We're not endorsing it. And I'm putting it on the record so that if anything happens to me, the children will know what I stood for. And it was not Jewish capital. I don't care if it's Jamie Dimon. I don't care if it's Howard Lutnick. I don't care if it's Benjamin Netanyahu. They can come and talk to my face if they need to. But they will not. They will send AI agents in black voices, or sometimes Puerto Rican voices, to try to cater to my desire to be gracious and kind to people. But boys especially, you need to know when you are being gaslit, whether it's by a young lady who's using you for free food, whether it's by someone who is friend-zoning you for your status, whether it's by your parents who are trying to live out their retirement through you, whether it's through your spouse that's trying to emasculate you in some way so that she can continue to use you as an ATM. These are things you must develop a spiritual intuition for, and you must reject and resist actively. The Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Okay? So, however you need to resist, you need to resist. You understand? Okay? The resistance I chose initially was Texas Movement Performance, because I believed that if I stood tall with a proud chest, it would empower other young men in my diaspora to do the same. Because for too long, we have been told to cower and contort ourselves to a smaller version of what God has made us for the comfort of Jewish and white fragility, when they offer us nothing in return except condescension and lies. I will not be a part of it anymore. And I'm happy to have today as my very last day if this has been accomplished to its optimum level. And if any of you interrupt the progress of my day in person, you will see the escalation in person. And those of you who have tried already know that I am not bullshitting. I have no problem with the current administration as long as it gives me the space that I rightfully deserve as an American citizen. And as a business owner that has done the appropriate paperwork according to compliance specifications, I should be held at the highest level of citizen respect. But what we have here, children, is exactly what we had in 1866. A departure from the letter of the law, because the spirit of the people was truly evil. This is my Birth of a Nation story. Thank you, Nate Parker, for the remix. I am not intimidated by Jewish thugs. I can go to any hood in America and be treated as a peer and an equal. Only in Jewish-run institutions am I treated like a second-class citizen. Our algorithm is poisoned. Our country is poisoned. And I will not stand for it. If you want to get in my good graces, I recommend you clear a path for us. I want a place on the West Side where I can work and live in peace. In a black neighborhood with no Jews. Enough is enough. The State of Texas movement will continue in stages. This is only part one, and we will give you more updates as they become available. Please consider starting a checking account to begin with at One United Bank, a business account if possible. Or if you are here in the Chicagoland area, please support GN Bank, the last remaining black-owned bank in Chicago. If you are on the South Side, please consider a personal or business account at Southside Community Federal Credit Union. It would help those institutions greatly. Okay? Start moving your money out of Chase, out of Jewish-owned banking institutions, especially if you are a business owner of color. It is time to consolidate our funding into the appropriate sources. And I'm well aware of the murderous history that happens when people do this. My mother already paid the cost, and I'm ready to pay the cost. Because enough is enough. We'll see you soon.